Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and non-gender conforming individuals to another episode of The Benjamin Dixon Show. Today is Tuesday, July 18th, 2023. Thank you so much for joining me. The Screenwriters and Actors Guild strike in Hollywood has intensified since last we spoke.
The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial. Some of it is karma. And some of it is just figuring out who the said that. And we know who said that. You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker.
That's the voice of actor Ron Perlman responding very directly to the executives who stated that the end goal, the end game, was to starve out writers and actors. We'll cover that more later in today's episode. But first, in Texas, Governor Greg Abbott is proving yet again that the cruelty is most certainly the point.
The trooper who sent this email to their superior claims that they are being asked to push small children and nursing babies back into the Rio Grande and being ordered to refuse water to migrants even in the extreme heat.
You heard that correctly. According to exclusive emails obtained by the Houston Chronicle, officers who work for Greg Abbott's border security initiative have reported that they have been instructed by their superiors to push children back into the Rio Grande in order to prevent them from crossing the border. Now, if you've been watching the news over the past week, you would have seen that Texas officials went so far as to place buoys, a string of buoys in the Rio Grande, so significant that ecologists are warning that it could potentially change the current or the flow of the Rio Grande. But these are just some of the measures, the draconian and quite honestly fascistic measures being taken by the Abbott administration to prevent asylum seekers from making it to the shores of the United States. And we have known that asylum seekers, migrants, people who come through the borders are some of the most exploited and targeted humans on the face of the planet. They are targeted by these draconian and fascistic policies headed up by governors like Greg Abbott and governors like Ron DeSantis, who over the weekend spoke very directly about his bloodlust. He wants to literally commit murder at the border, but he's using the pretense of quote unquote drug dealers running fentanyl across the borders. Listen in.
Well, how do we let the cartels cut a hole in a border wall and run fentanyl through without any pushback? For us, we are authorizing lethal force, and if they try to do that when I'm president, that'll be the last thing they do, because they're going to end up stone cold dead at the border wall. And I guarantee you, when we do that, you are not going to see any of these people want to do it again. So we're going to do that, but we are going to have...
I mean, even Ron DeSantis gets an opportunity to look like a tough guy when it comes to asylum seekers. Now, he's trying to cover this violence that he's advocating for by saying that he's going after the cartels and he's going after the people who are running fentanyl. But please tell me exactly who is going to make that call in the split moment decision. Who's going to make a call at the border to suggest or to honestly know whether or not the individual crossing the border is a member of the cartel or just a father trying to get his 4-year-old daughter through to the United States of America? The end result of this type of language and these type of policies, it's dead human beings at the border who are dead for no other reason than the desire of conservatives to grandstand. They want to look tough. They want to look tough on crime and they want to look tough at the border. But the reality is who they're being tough against are pregnant women. A woman who had a miscarriage, right, in her attempt to get to the United States of America. Yeah, a 4-year-old girl who passed out from heat exhaustion, right? A teenage boy who broke his leg trying to circumnavigate all of the different traps and wires and buoys that have been set up by the Abbott administration. That's who's going to suffer here. And that's the point. because the ideology of the conservative movement in this country is one of violence. It is one of cruelty, and it's one that requires a scapegoat. You will notice that every single year, the conservative movement, the Republican Party, which is controlled completely and totally by fascists, theocratic fascists at that, which is ironic. Let me go on this tangent. These are the same people who claim to be pro-life, right? The people who claim to be pro-life in this country absolutely enact the most barbaric and anti-life policies imaginable. This is the same group of people who require a scapegoat. They have to have a group of people that their supporters, their constituents, their followers, their voters can hate and express that hatred towards, all the way to the point of violence, all the way to the point of small little man Ron DeSantis exercising his toughness, gets a chance to say that they're going to be stone cold dead. That's because this is a party that needs someone to hate, because they do not have policies that actually help anyone except their billionaire donors. They do not have policies or ideas to move the country forward in any direction other than fascism. So how do you sell that? You can't just come out right and say that we want to make the rich richer and we want to make life tougher for everyone else. So what do? You get a group for them to hate. And you would be surprised, or maybe not, because they've been doing it for so long. But some people may be surprised at exactly how much they can get voters to vote against their best interests with the usage of a scapegoat, with the hatred. So long as conservatives can successfully give their voters someone to hate, then they will keep winning elections and they will keep moving the ball towards fascism. That is that's the breadth and scope of what they are and what they represent. I don't care how much they call on the name of Jesus. I don't care how much they go to church on Sunday mornings. These are the same people who enacted Jim Crow, the same people who lynched black people before, during, and after their Sunday services. I mean, maybe they're not that old. Maybe it was their parents, certainly their intellectual precursors. Right? They have the same ideology. And right now, they're just bouncing back and forth between three key groups that they want their supporters to hate enough to win another election: black people, gay people, and migrants. They are vacillating back and forth between scapegoating and fomenting hatred towards those groups. Oh, women, 4 groups. Sorry, women writ large. Just I don't care what race you are. If you are a woman, you are on the receiving end of the same cruelty. This is the ideology and the MO of the modern conservative movement in the United States of America, which is absolutely underneath the control of actual, factual fascists. I have a theory. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but I am under the impression, by all the evidence that I have observed, I have come to the conclusion that there is a faction of quote unquote Democratic / quote unquote moderate rich white men who are 100% complicit with the rise of fascism in the United States of America, as best evidenced by the fact that Joe Manchin, the so-called Democratic senator from the state of West Virginia, is now considering a third-party run with the so-called bipartisan group No Labels. I knew and know of No Labels from their first inception back somewhere around 2007, 2008. They claimed to not be moving left or not be moving right, but to be moving forward. I think that was their motto. And the reality is that they are nothing more than corporate backers. They are an organization that has the desire of doing nothing but moving the ball forward for corporatism, which, as anyone who has studied fascism honestly should know, that corporatism works just fine with fascism. Corporatism doesn't need democracy. And I go to this extent because when you consider how many different groups are vying for a third party run this year, and then you think about Joe Manchin now considering a third party run for president. I have a clip I'll play for you, but also take in consideration the fact that he got every single concession that he extorted out of the Democratic Party over the last 3 years. Every piece of legislation that was presented that was remotely progressive, Joe Manchin stood in the way alongside his friend Kirsten Sinema, and they used the power of the filibuster to ensure that we didn't get any traction on voting rights, to make sure that we didn't get any traction on women's rights, to make sure that we didn't get any traction on environmental protection. Every single bill, every single thing that Joe Biden tried to head up, there Joe Manchin was conveniently there to sandbag it. And now he's claiming that he has to consider, he's potentially considering a third party run with no labels because both parties are too extreme. How, Sway? Listen in.
We're here to make sure that the American people have an option. And the option is, can you move the political parties off their respective sides? They've gone too far right and too far left. If that movement can move, but that can't be done unless they're threatened. The only way you can threaten is have people out there that says, listen, they can't win. Either side can't win without the independent. Without that independent, that means center left, center right, an independent Republican, an independent Democrat. If they have another option, then they're in trouble. Both parties are in trouble. So they're going to have to say, okay, we better look at this again. I don't think unless we stay over here that they're going to vote for us. So maybe we can move. Let's see what happens. It's too early. Everyone thinks we need to do something.
Let me press you on this, because if you do get in the race and you spoil the election, would that factor into?
I've never been in any race I've ever spoiled. I've been in races to win, and if I get in a race, I'm going to win. So, with that being said,
please clap. Well, no, if he gets in the race as a third party candidate for no labels, he's going to lose, and he knows that. But it costs nothing for him to talk as though he's confident that he can win when his goal is to lose, so that it could be handed to someone like Donald Trump. So that it could be handed to someone like Ron DeSantis. And for what reason? Because Joe Manchin literally got everything he demanded over the last 3 years. It was so bad that everyone was calling him President Manchin. He was holding Joe Biden hostage by the throat, demanding every single concession that he can extort out of the Democratic Party, and he got them. And now he's saying that the Democratic Party is too to the left. I wish. I honestly, and look at the game. Look at the game. You hold the party hostage. You barely get any. The country did not move to the left. The country did not move to the left one iota underneath Joe Biden. Not on any policy that actually mattered to the left. But apparently that wasn't enough for somebody like Joe Manchin. And so one of two things has to be true with a person like Joe Manchin. It's either true that there's just no satisfying rich conservative white men, or, I mean, I guess both of these can be true. He's in the bag. He's in the bag for the theocratic fascists. I mean, he knows without a doubt that splitting the ticket by running as a third party candidate, it would be just enough to pick off enough so-called moderate Democrats who actually believe this drivel. Those Democrats who are, like a Jim Carville. Like, of course, I don't think Jim Carville himself would vote for Joe Manchin, but there's that group of Democrats that go all the way back to 92 with the election of Bill Clinton, who really believe themselves when they think that the party has gotten too radical. I wish, don't threaten us with a good time. Don't pretend as though Joe Biden, folks, of all people, like he's some kind of progressive hero, some kind of socialist. See, this really should show someone like Joe Biden exactly why it was that he should never have capitulated to someone like Joe Manchin. Why you do not negotiate with ideological terrorists, even inside of your party. Those people who are going to block your agenda no matter what, and then turn around and run against you to make sure that you lose. It's kind of fitting. It's kind of fitting that America would get sandbagged by someone as rich, as conservative, and as white as Joe Manchin in the middle of this time in American history where we're trying to preserve our democracy, wouldn't it just be fitting that yet another spoiled son of this empire who literally has everything that he wants? He's got the yacht. He's got the Maserati. He's got the mansions. He's getting everything he wants from the president, literally able to hold up the entire agenda of Joe Biden simply because he wants to. And yet and still, it's not enough. Why is it not enough, Joe Manchin? Well, I think my conspiracy theory is that it's not enough because he is a part of this movement that is determined to do away with democracy and install a theocratic fascist state because, well, it's going to benefit corporatism. It's going to benefit white men. What does Joe Manchin have to lose in any of this? What does John Huntsman, who was on the stage with Joe Manchin, what does he have to lose in any of this? Do you think either of those two extremely wealthy, extremely conservative white men are going to lose a single thing when fascism takes over? When Donald Trump gets into power again? No, in fact, they could probably count on more tax breaks, which I think is the driving factor behind most white conservative rich men in this country. I don't think they don't care about God. They don't even care about their children. All they care about is their money. And that is exactly who Joe Manchin is.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
Here we go. Very special welcome to 2 new patrons. Thank you so much to Adrian Smith. Thank you for becoming a patron. And Grant Ekman, thank you so much for becoming a patron. This entire patron party is for the 2 of you. Go on and turn it up. Yep. Here we go. You too can become a part of this prestigious and most prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, none of the commercial interruptions, and you get access to our bi-weekly patron party, which we probably have one coming up this week. I'll check with DJ Exclusive, patreon.com/The BPD Show, and we will be back right after this commercial break, unless you're a patron.
Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yep. Welcome back. Yep. Welcome back. Charlie Kirk of Turning Points USA is, extremely successful. Let me go ahead and give him some credit where credit is due. He is extremely successful at spreading the message of fascism across college campuses. He is on the tip of the spear as it pertains to moving the theocratic fascist movement forward. He's one of the first young Republicans to go all into the religious rhetoric and to the anti-degenerate movement. And he's been extremely successful with it because, well, he's got the funding to do so. I mean, he's got the backing of some of the biggest billionaires in this country. He is able to head up. I mean, have you seen the stage crafting that goes on at his events? It's because he's the recipient of millions upon millions of dollars from some of the richest people in this country for the express purposes of spreading the message of hate that he spreads. But his niche is spreading it amongst young people, young white conservatives on college campuses. He unites them all around this country underneath the mantle of theocratic fascism. Here's a clip of this. Rather, in a way, he's successful because, I guess if you throw a couple of $1 million at anyone, they should be able to pull off something successfully. But to me, he's rather sub-mediocre in terms of his intellect. And yet he has the desire to do this.
If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
See, I'm not going to take the bait to respond with the appropriate level of rage that this deserves. I'd just rather meet the guy in person for that. In terms of what he said, it's rather revealing that he assumes that these are white people's spots, right? That is itself the reason that affirmative action existed in the first place, because this country has a track record of promoting not only mediocre white people, but sub-mediocre white people like Charlie Kirk, who, ironically enough, when you, no offense to anyone, it's going to sound offensive, it's going to sound elitist, but I'm going to say it because it's relevant to Charlie Kirk. And I was to a college dropout, but I went back and finished and almost done with a PhD. Charlie Kirk is a community college dropout. Okay. So he did not have enough discipline, right, or intellectual capacity to finish community college. Now, you don't have to go to college in this country for you to be an intellectual, or it's not even representative of the smartest people in the world. Like, college is just kind of a cultural thing that we do here, and it's definitely become a way of exploiting wealth out of everybody. But if you're going to try to insult some of the smartest women, black women on the face of the planet, right? Ketanji Brown Jackson, like, have you read her dissent, right? Have you read her processing power? I know that's besides the point. I mean, you know, he honestly just said this for clicks, and he said this to rile up his support base who get off on these types of things, right? But it's just the irony that he confessed with his own mouth that he realizes that these are spots that have been reserved for white people, not because of their qualifications, right? He didn't say reserved for some of the top performing white people in the country. No, he just said white people, right? So he has the assumption, there is an assumption in this country, there is a baseline in this country that there are certain things that are reserved for white people, and he fell right into it. Now, I honestly don't care about Charlie Kirk, you know? What I care about are the black preachers who work for him, like Reverend Wu Truth. I want to keep REVWUTRUTH on all social media platforms. This is the guy, this black preacher who made his name to fame by going into the Lego stores and attacking them for wearing rainbow pride pins. I've mentioned him on the show before. Brother Truth, Reverend Wu Truth, can I speak to you very directly? Do your black constituents know that your real boss, the guy who made you famous, the guy who was your bread and butter, who you work for at Turning Points USA Faith, right? Do your black congregants realize that your real boss thinks this way about Michelle Obama, about Ketanji Brown Jackson? Do they know that you work for an avowed racist? No. Maybe I need to help them. Maybe I need to come to your church and preach so somebody can tell them the truth. Reverend Wu Truth.
The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial. Some of it is karma. And some of it is just figuring out who the said that. And we know who said that. You wish that on people. You wish that families starve while you're making $27 million a year for creating nothing. Be careful, motherfucker.
Oh, that is, I don't know if it's the birds in the background that resonates with my soul so much, or just the fact that Ron Perlman put it in a language that speaks to my soul. I don't know. Maybe it's both. But let me just say this: solidarity with all workers, especially those workers who are willing to cross their own class lines. Ron Perlman is a class traitor. He's worth $8 million. And the only reason I know he's worth $8 million is because someone tried to use that as a rebuttal to this clip. They try to use the fact that he has a net worth of $8 million to suggest that he's one disingenuous and that we should not align with him. Excuse me? No, that's the exact opposite of the truth. We absolutely need people who have high net worth to understand solidarity with workers who are struggling. The Screen Actors Guild, they have about 160,000 members. And of those 160,000 members, 80% of them don't make over $26,000 a year. The reason we know this is because in order for you to get health benefits through the Screen Actors Guild, you have to make more than $26,000 a year. 80% of actors and actresses do not make over $26,000 a year. So we must understand class solidarity, not just in terms of net worth, right? The fact that we have more in common with Ron Perlman than he has in common with the executives. The fact that Ron Perlman is closer to poverty than any billionaire would ever be, right? That's one way of understanding solidarity across class lines, but also rejecting this idea that prestigious jobs that sound prestigious, right, are automatically workers and they don't have any solidarity with us. That makes absolutely no sense when you consider the reality of how many lawyers are struggling, right? How many actors are struggling. And just because we have a prestigious title doesn't mean that we have a prestigious lifestyle and income. And more importantly than just income, wealth, net worth, the ability to live without working, the ability to live without having to sell your labor. And this is in anybody who has to actively sell their labor in order to make a living, whether that living is something nice like Ron Perlman makes, or whether it's something great like, the highest performing attorneys make. They are using their labor to generate that wealth. We have solidarity with them. And we need them to have solidarity with us, because if it's dependent upon people who literally are starving, right? Those people who are trying to, scratch and survive, right? That itself is one of the mechanisms to keep us divided, the divide and conquer tactic. So long as we are unable to put our energy into fighting back against the system because we're starving, because we have to go work another job, we have to go pick up another shift just so that we can pay our insurance premiums, just so that we can keep our children healthy, whatever combination of life factors that keeps us struggling, it is the struggle itself that prevents us from moving the ball forward in so many ways. And so, yes, it helps. It absolutely helps to have people with enough wealth and enough platform size, right? The ability to reach massive amounts of people. That's yet another way that the powerful stay in power, because they have all the access to all of the media platforms. They have the ability to get their messages out without even breaking a sweat, right? The majority of us have to try to master the algorithm for a shot in hell to get our message out to the masses. Not a billionaire, not a CEO. They have media companies. They have journalists actively working on their behalf while they're resting comfortably on their yacht, right? So we absolutely need people that can make a physical sacrifice of their time. Those people who don't have to work 3 shifts. Somebody's got to stand on the picket line, right? And then those people who have platforms large enough to reach millions of people. I mean, there's a level of solidarity that is mounting right now because of how much attention the Screen Actors Guild and the writers are getting in Hollywood. It is something that is galvanizing a protest, rather a strike from the UPS work drivers, right? The strike that's getting ready to take place because full-time UPS strikers or trucker drivers are willing to strike on behalf of part-time drivers. Look at that solidarity, right? You have UPS drivers across the country getting ready to go on strike on behalf of part-time drivers. UPS drivers who work full-time, I believe I saw one video, they make about $42 an hour versus the $15 an hour part-time drivers. The full-time drivers are going on strike on behalf of the part-time strikers. We got to have solidarity around the board, people. Patrons, stay tuned. Everyone else, I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.